welcome to the Snow Horse Marketing Podcast. Today I have Jeff with me. Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining.
Well, thanks for having me. This is exciting. I'm loving the chat.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Just so our audience knows, Jeff is the CEO of Start, Grow, Manage, that scales managed service providers. He helps building businesses, helping them communicate and influence their target market for over 20 years in over 37 different countries, working with startups through multinationals, and is now focused on MPS. So I'm really MSPs. Okay, thank you. So tell me a little bit about MSPs. I know we were talking a little bit earlier, but what is key to marketing managed services?
Yeah, so first I'm going to tell everybody what managed services is because nobody knows other than the MSP. So all the MSP guys are like, yeah, I know what it is, but nobody else does. So managed services, these are the people generally who are providing your IT support, right? So if you've got a company of 20, 30, 40 people, you're probably hiring somebody to do your IT. And that's what a managed service provider is. There are other managed services out there, but we primarily work with the IT companies. So that's what managed services are. And you know, what's key to scaling managed services is to really have a very specific defined target market. There is something and I don't know if you've noticed this, but there is something in the entrepreneurial brain that wants to target the whole world. And it's like, my service works for everybody. I don't know, have you experienced that too?
Yes, yeah, we see quite a bit of that over here at Snow Horse with those that we mentor.
Yeah, so you know, and the idea of I want to be agnostic or I want to be market agnostic, and the problem is it comes back to if you are marketing to everybody in the world, then you're marketing to nobody, right? Because nobody wants to be everybody. Nobody identifies themselves as a generic consumer who will buy anything. Everybody always identifies themselves as like a singular individual with individual needs who wants to do something particular to them. And so the key to marketing managed services, which I've found is the key to marketing everything really, is to get very, very specific about the person that you're marketing to. Really understand the problem that they have and speak to that problem, because that's really what draws people in, at least in my experience.
Oh, I completely agree. I know here at Snow Horse, we kind of help during our first 90 days working with a new client. One of our biggest goals is accurately defining what their ICP, their avatar, their persona is that is actually interacting with their messaging. Yeah. And I'm always amazed how few people, what they say what their client is and who their client actually is, a lot of times there's not a fit, or there's been a transition, especially with like COVID. When COVID happened, who someone was selling to really changed. And a lot of it took them a while to really bounce back and analyze their data to identify that change and then adjust their messaging to it. So yeah, it's very, very common.
You know, that's interesting. We do find, you know, our clients tend to be too small to have the luxury of getting it wrong. But we do find that a lot of times the person that they think that they're marketing to is not really the person they're marketing to, or the person that they think is their ideal customer isn't their ideal customer. So when we sit down with them and say, well, you know, who actually really values your services, you know, and they think it's over here, but then you say, well, then why do you have 5 clients over here? Why do you keep saying that they're your favorite? You know, I say, well, okay, maybe, you know, and I agree with you that I see that across the board where people just don't really understand who their target market is.
Well, a lot of times too, like as we work with companies and they work with multiple agencies or consultants like yourself, because they don't have that fine tuned, sometimes they'll even do marketing and be like, oh, Facebook marketing just doesn't work, or digital marketing doesn't work, or print marketing, like they'll just blanket it, it doesn't work. And if you go in there with a fine tune and look at it and be like, well, who was the messaging going to? It usually means the targeting was wrong. Either the messaging was wrong or the targeting was wrong. I know recently we've actually been implementing streamlining our lead gen services and our connecting with our new potential clients. And I get really giddy about it, but I get really excited. We did a cold email that got over a 40% open rate, and then we ran it again 3 weeks later, and we have a 78.5% open rate on that
Yeah, I
same.
love that.
And it was amazing. But it's because we really fine-tuned, like, who are we sending the emails to and what are we saying in the email to make sure that it's reaching the right people who will have interest in what we have to say.
Yeah, and that's an indicator. Like if you're getting 80% open rates, then you are really talking about a problem in their world. It's really about them. You're not talking about yourself. You're not talking about what you did over the weekend. You're not talking about how great your services are. Even though I'm sure they're wonderful, but you're not talking about that. You're talking about their specific problem. And we also find, and I know that you're really into systems as well, putting systems together, and we've found that it really that avatar, defining that avatar, really carries on into the operations. That when you're delivering a service, you want to be sure that you're productizing it, that you're identifying a problem for a specific market, like we're talking about, and that you develop a solution to that problem, so that you're really offering something that's relevant to them. And I think, like you just said, the advertising never works. It never works if you don't have a target, right? If you're just blanket advertising to everybody, the cost of that is never going to be paid back by the revenue, right? But you also mentioned the messaging, because it's not just understanding who it is, it's also telling them the right story. It's also telling them, hey, I really understand you. I understand what's going on in your world. I understand the problems that you face. And I have a really interesting solution to that problem. And then you give people a little bit of that solution. So at least in our world, what we found is by leading with a bit of value, giving a little bit of that solution, helping people start to overcome that problem, it just ends up making you irresistible.
Oh, I agree. Exactly. When we work with our clients, we do monthly fractional CMO strategy. And this is like what we talk about with our clients. It's like, okay, who are you messaging to? What types of images? What is that putting off? What are we learning from people responding? And there's lots of ways to test it out and figure out who your people are. And you don't even have to go really expensive to test it out. But I love how you work with startups and smaller businesses, because so many of them get it wrong. And that's why the businesses don't last more than 5 years, because they're talking to people. It's more of the psychology, mental health world, but I feel like anything applying to people applies to people, whether it's marketing or relationships. And I really love, Jordan Peterson often talks about how don't talk to people who aren't listening. Like, it's a mental health strategy, right? And I think it applies so much into marketing. Like, stop talking to people who aren't listening. Go talk to the people who are excited to find you. And I feel like sometimes people lack confidence in what they do.
Yeah.
Some of the best practitioners, they are the best at what they do in their industry. Sometimes they lack a little bit of confidence. Does someone actually want this? Right? And so sometimes it's really fun to be able to show them, like, here's who your ICP is. And now that we're advertising to this avatar, here's the results. You're getting all these leads, all this attention, and that's so fun. That is so fun to do.
Oh, I love it. First, so I love this. Only talk to people who are listening. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So I hadn't thought of that as a therapy issue, but I'm now going to write that down and put it on my wall, because I love. So you've done my therapy for today. So I appreciate that. That's really cool. And I think it's true around lacking confidence. Well, first I want to say about testing. Like you mentioned testing, and I think there's a perception out there that to test, you have to have thousands of people come into your website. You have to do like A/B testing, But you can just test a message by talking to somebody. One of the ways that we've refined our messages is just reaching out to people and saying, hey, this is what we do. And it resonates or it doesn't resonate. And then we change it and we do it again and we change it and we do it again until we get to the right one. And rather than guessing the whole time, going back to that testing and trying it out and seeing what kind of results that you get before you make, before you commit to stuff, I think is, that's a really important point. And then confidence, yeah, we find that the reason that people resist identifying their ideal client is fear. And they have fear in two places. One of them was, like you said, like we said earlier, right? The entrepreneurial brain is just going to resist passionately the idea of narrowing your market. So that's fear number one, right? It's just this resistance. But the other one is, this is what happens when you choose an ideal client and you start selling to that ideal client, you now really have to deliver.
Yeah.
So now your results matter more because you're more specific in what you're talking about. So you can't just deliver generalized results anymore. Now you have to deliver specific results, and that's scary. That's putting your behind on the line, right? Like that's actually saying, I'm going to do this, and that's legitimately scary. But I think that that's the point where you've really stepped into entrepreneurship, or where you've really stepped into the challenge of managing your business, because now all of a sudden you're saying, okay, I have to really solve a problem for somebody. I have to really know that I'm solving that problem. And in my experience, the entrepreneurs are pretty darn good at solving those problems. Like you said, like it's like people that they believe they're not sure that they can do it, but it's almost like the people, and I want to know if you experience this as well, but like the people who are most scared of letting down their clients are the ones who have the best offering. And it's the people who don't care at all, who are like super confident, who can't do anything.
There's a lot of truth to that. There really is.
I mean, I just find that all the time. I was like, you have a really good service. Like, you're 10 times better than the next guy. Why are you worried about, well, but they really need these results? And, like someone who works with accountants, one of our MSPs works with accountants. He's saying, well, I said, well, promise uptime during tax season. He said, well, I don't know. I don't really want to promise it. I mean, but do you ever have downtime during tax season? He's like, no. Said, well, then promise it, right? Like why you deliver this service and you're reluctant to really talk about how you deliver it. And the reason is because he's so conscious about how important it is to deliver on that thing. So he looks at every little thing, like, but I almost had an outage 3 years ago, and that would have been a bad thing.
No, well, and I completely agree. And I feel like a lot of times, when we do our consultations with clients, we really are encouraging them that, like, you know what, if you set yourself up for this success and a problem, an outage happens, know an outage happened. So now you can do things like have backups, right, that are in place so that you now can solve that problem in the future. Or if a certain time, one thing that we often find is with doing digital marketing, almost every business has some sort of seasonality to it. They do. There's just times of years where certain things are in more demand or less. I mean, even stuff like eggs and milk, like there's just certain times a year those are in more demand and less demand, right? Even if you do basics. And what we found is with the seasonality, a lot of people get a little bit nervous about like the off seasons or the peak seasons. And it's like, well, now like if you're tracking the information, now you know what to expect in the future. And what I love, when you know your audience, when you have an off season, you can go create artificial demand, right? Or you can prep, or maybe you want that time, you need the breather to prep or to train new people or whatever it is. But when you know what the cycle is of your avatar, of that persona, of your ideal client, once you figure that out, you're able to manage energy within the company better as well.
100%.
And that's just been phenomenal recommendations for them. Like, oh, well, it looks like July and August are slow times. Maybe that's when you should hire and train.
Yeah. No, I have one client. She's actually not our avatar. but I work with her on her marketing. She's actually in PR, and it's the same thing that you say. It's summer is a slow time, and we know every year it's coming. June, July are going to be slow. You creep into middle August and you're really nervous, and then middle August hits, and then all of a sudden the clients come rushing back and they're like desperate to make sure that they're ready for September. And it's a brilliant time to work on content, work on marketing, get planned, and manage that energy so that you are preparing other things. Like she used this time to actually create a course. And so now she's got a course that she's also selling while she's doing her client work. Now she's got another course. And the idea is that that might take some of the seasonality out of her business. But I love that. Like, and when you understand your client, you understand that that's going to happen, then you can easily manage manage your energy, and you can easily come back to, all right, how do I use these lulls to my advantage rather than freak out about them and pull out all of my hair, you know?
Yeah, there's a swimming suit company I worked with, and obviously, swimming suit season is very seasonal. And then during the fall, what they learned to do, they created more systems like your lady did in the fall to do better marketing each year. But once they got that pretty systemized, now they had more energy in the fall. And they're like, why don't we focus on selling our accessories in the fall? And they actually created a second website, and it was just about their accessories that they sell. And now they basically they've two brands even that they sell the same accessories on both, but one is just fall-based branding, fall-based trademark, all that. And now they've leveled out their revenue every month.
That's
And
brilliant.
it's brilliant. I was
But
like,
the
that's
key, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but the key is that they got the swimsuit business dialed in first.
yes.
And they didn't go after the accessories business until they got the first one dialed in. You get the first one working, optimized, and then you can move on to the next one.
100% agree. Yeah, so many people they want to sell everything to everyone.
Everything to everyone.
It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Well, it has been a pleasure meeting with you, Jeff. I'm so excited that we were able to chat. Do you have any last minute thing that you want to share while you're here with us?
Other than I just want to encourage everybody who's listening to really take to heart this idea of narrowing your market. I mean, I was an entrepreneur. Well, I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. I struggled with this at first, and this just opened up so many opportunities for me. So yes, it applies to you, and I think you're going to get great results if you go down that path.
Wonderful. And Jeff, if someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best place for them to go?
Startgrowmanage.com. You can just go straight to the website. We've got links to our blog. We've got links to our podcast. You can, if you are an MSP, you can download a business plan template right from the homepage. That's the best place to go.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, listeners, for being here today. Again, just keep following us on Snow Horse Marketing on LinkedIn or on our website. Or again, we are on Spotify now. All right. Thank you so much for being here today, Jeff.
Thank you for having me. This was great fun.